The end of the petrodollar era. Right now, there is alarm in the US because Donald Trump's war against Iran could lead to a long-term catastrophe for the US economy. Namely, the dollar, as the world currency, could lose its position significantly. The point is that the very definition of the petrodollar originated in the Middle East in the 1970s, when the US and the monarchies of the Persian Gulf agreed that their oil would be traded only for US dollars. This term indicates that oil trading on the world market is conducted in dollars. Billions and billions of dollars are spent every day all over the world. But the outcome of the war against Iran could change the situation dramatically, and this would undermine the American dollar. So let's figure this out, so that we don't end up like the Russians, who make such statements without really understanding what exactly is behind their words about the possible fall of the American dollar. There's definitely something to discuss here. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start this episode, I ask you to support the work of this YouTube channel. You can do this financially through donations, sponsorship, or a paid subscription. By using the links and details in this video's description, you can find all the platforms where you can do this. I will be grateful for any support you provide. And also subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechi News. The link is also in this video's description. So, the fate of the term petrodollar is hanging by a thread amid the energy shock caused by the US war against Iran. But first, let's define how and when the concept of the petrodollar emerged and why it is even relevant. The concept of the petrodollar is not just an economic term, it's the foundation on which American financial dominance around the world has rested for the past half-century. In short, it's a system in which oil on the global market is sold exclusively for US dollars, and the surplus revenue from these sales flows back into the American economy. The scheme was established in the 1970s until 1971. The so-called Bretton Woods system was in effect. That is, the US dollar was pegged to gold, and all other currencies were pegged to the US dollar. That is, the US dollar was backed by gold reserves. But because of huge spending on the Vietnam War and domestic programs, there were more paper dollars in the US than physical gold in the vaults. It became obvious that some of the American dollars were not backed by that very gold. And so, in 1971, the then US President Richard Nixon took a truly astonishing step and cancelled the link between the US dollar and gold. Then the dollar became fiat, no longer backed by anything. Just 2 years later, the Middle East was shaken by the Yom Kippur War between Israel and the Arab countries. In response to the United States' support for Israel, the OPEC cartel countries imposed an oil embargo. And accordingly, oil prices skyrocketed, and this was very, very dangerous for the American economy. Washington needed to somehow shore up the dollar and ensure the stability of energy supplies. That's why in 1974, U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger and Treasury Secretary William Simon went to Saudi Arabia. That's when the U.S. laid the foundation for a super profitable arrangement. Saudi Arabia, as the leader of the OPEC cartel, agreed to sell its oil only for U.S. dollars. And the US guarantees full military protection, supplies of modern weapons, and the preservation of the ruling dynasty. Essentially, it's the protection of this dynasty. Just a year later, that is. By 1975, the rest of the OPEC countries followed Saudi Arabia. So, what happened in the end? This system created an artificial but enormous demand for US dollars all over the world. After 1974, any country, Germany, Japan, China, it doesn't matter, any country in the world, in order to buy oil, first had to buy US dollars, which they would then use to purchase that very oil. Because all countries, they simply wouldn't sell you oil for any other currency. And if that's the case, the US got the ability to print their currency in huge amounts without the risk of hyperinflation. Why? Because the entire global market was absorbing it. That's how it was until today. The oil market creates a constant built-in global demand for American dollars. Accordingly, the dollar holds a rather dominant position, but now there are several risks. Currently, Iran sells oil at prices denominated not in American currency but in Chinese currency yuan. And if the sanctions are lifted, it may start selling even more of its oil with prices not denominated in dollars. That is, for the first time in the past half century, there is a situation where, in order to buy oil, you don't necessarily have to buy American dollars. And until today, that's exactly how it always was. In addition, Iran is also seeking to introduce a fee for passage through the Strait of Hormuz. And there are rumors that the fee for tankers and other vessels passing through will be charged in yuan or cryptocurrency. And the introduction of a passage fee not denominated in dollars would pose a threat to the petrodollar system. And if you're offered the option to pay for a vessel's passage in cryptocurrency, then maybe it's worth selling part of the oil itself in cryptocurrency as well, so you don't have to spend money on exchanges. And all of this is the result of the war started by Donald Trump. But it must be admitted that economists have been warning about this for a long time, but at the moment the dollar still dominates the oil market and the economy. No one is saying that everything will change overnight. I'm describing a situation that could happen. On the other hand, Iran might act differently. And it's possible that Iran is even trying to introduce a fee for tankers passing through the Hormuz Strait simply to get more dollars. I mean, actual cash dollars. Because otherwise it doesn't have access to this currency. Well, anyway, this is still a turning point for the Pax dollar, or for the petrodollar itself. What's happening now is much more significant. It really could lead to major changes in the global economy. And what is Donald Trump doing at this time? And Trump is getting nervous. The US president issued a stern warning to Tehran. The reason was reports that Iran began charging tankers for passage through the Hormuz Strait. Trump stated, and I quote, There are reports that Iran is charging tankers passing through the Hormuz Strait. It would be better if that didn't happen. And if that's the case, they better stop right now. So, when you hear from Donald Trump or his supporters that the US supposedly isn't interested at all in keeping the Hormuz Strait open, and that they have nothing to lose if it's closed, that the Europeans should send all their warships because they're the ones who need to unblock the Hormuz Strait, and Trump can just walk away and do nothing at all, because for America, keeping the Hormuz Strait open doesn't matter. So, when you hear all this, remember, this is a blatant lie. It's based on the assumption that you simply don't know how exactly the petrodollar system was built. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so financially, with any donation, paid subscription, or sponsorship on YouTube. All the links and details on how to do this are in the description of this video. It says there, support Alex Peachy's channel. Choose any format that's convenient for you. I will be grateful for any support you can give. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.